In this session, we are going to learn and understand the concept of user groups and user administration. User groups are logical groupings of users that provide a mechanism for the user administrators to centrally or remotely maintain a limited set of users. It's a concept using which you can categorize and distribute user IDs in the SAP system. This concept is very useful in a decentralized user administration scenario where there are several user administrators, each responsible for administration of a certain group of users. The administration in a decentralized user administration can be shared according to different criteria such as application area module, locations department. What it means is you can group the user IDs in your SAP system into by their modules, by the departments, and you can make use of these user groups, this grouping of user IDs for user administration purposes. Each decentralized user administrator may only administrate to the users assigned to the user group for which he or she is responsible. Accordingly, each decentralized user administrator may only assign roles needed for his or her application module, location or department, or any other criteria based on which the user groups have been created. What it means is, if you have multiple user administrators and you have grouped the users in your SAP system by user groups, then the user administrator allocated or who is authorized for a particular user group can only perform user administration activities on the user group that is authorized to. For example, in a global implementation where users are spread across different countries in the world, you can create a user group for each country and then authorize the user administrator in each location, each country, to administer the user IDs belonging to that group, that location, or in this case, let's say that country. So the user administrator in a particular country can create user IDs for that group, for that country, for that location. Or you can modify, assign roles for the user IDs belonging to that group, or delete the user IDs or assign roles to the user IDs belonging to the. From the security administration perspective, assigning users to user groups help you to restrict role assignment and also help in better user maintenance. For example, when you group user IDs, you could easily locate a user if there is a need to find out any information about the user. For example, user groups can also be used to authorize user administrators to change only those user master records of users to which they are authorized. That's the whole concept of the user group for user administration purposes, and that is that the user administrator should be allowed to work only with the groups, user groups to which they are authorized. The user groups are controlled by the object s_user_grp. So if a user administrator wants to create a user ID or modify user ID belonging to a particular user group, then he would need, or the administrator would need access to s_user_grp. So this object can be used to grant administration rights for only a certain group of users in a decentralized user administration. So like if in a global implementation where you have grouped the users based on their countries, then for a user administrator to modify or work with the user IDs from a particular country, the administrator should have access to s_user_grp, which would give him access to that country's user group. User groups are created using the transaction code SUGR. We'll see this as a demo. And then once the user groups are created, you can assign them in the logon data tab of the transaction SU01. Now, the field user group in the logon data tab is an optional field, which means that you don't have to the user group field in the user administration SU01 transaction in the logon data tab. That field is an optional field, which means that when a user administrator creates a user ID, if he or she does not enter a value in that user group field, then that user ID does not fall under any group, and any user administrator can administer that user ID. The rules of user groups don't apply to such user IDs. We'll see this as a demo with an example by creating some user groups and then using those user groups for creating user IDs, and then we'll create a role and see how the user group concept can be used for user administration purposes.